Good evening. Welcome to PoliticIt podcast. We have John Curtis today, and Congressman, it's great to have you here. And you've just announced to run for the Senate.
I have.
What got into you?
Exactly. I've been serving in the House for the last 6 years in the 3rd Congressional District. And there's a number of things. We need more than just the amount of time in your show to talk about them. But I feel strongly that it's important for me to jump into this race.
Yeah. I saw the poll numbers that came out. Your name recognition is way above anybody else in the field.
Well, thank you. We've worked hard. I was the mayor of Provo for 8 years, as you know, and now in the 3rd Congressional District. And we've worked hard to be out there and representing the people of the 3rd Congressional District.
So what did you do before you got into politics?
So, okay, is this random enough for you?
Yeah.
I owned a business with my partners that built and designed and installed shooting ranges.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, shooting ranges. We put shooting ranges all over the world, large and small. And finally, we sold that business. And that's when I made a move to be mayor of Provo.
Well, that ought to be good. That'll play well with the...
Yeah, I lectured for the NRA. I did a lot of traveling, and it was a great experience for me.
That's cool. And so how did you get into that?
I was working for the O.C. Tanner Company. A lot of people will know the O.C. Tanner Company out of Salt Lake City. Great company. They sent me to Southern California, to Richmond, Virginia. And then I had this bug, which you will understand, John, of the entrepreneurial bug, and wanted to be part of my own business. And so my cousin had been experimenting with this concept of a new way to turn targets. And I came and joined him, and we did that for a very long time. It was good business.
So were these things that would be commercial things, or were they in houses?
So we did Karl Malone's house.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but most of what we did was law enforcement and military. And so you've seen the movies where the targets twist and turn and move, and we did a lot of that. And then people don't realize this. One of the hardest things to do on a shooting range is to stop the bullet. And so we built what are called bullet traps down at the end of the range that could safely stop that bullet without it ricocheting.
Oh.
And ballistic ceilings, so the bullets didn't go up through the ceiling. And we became very good at that.
You know, I was just we had a session of the legislature, one of our all-day caucuses. We actually had at the shooting range that the Highway Patrol has, where they do their training.
Is that in the Salt Lake Community College?
Yeah.
So I built that range.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Because when you said that about the traps and everything, I thought, yeah, that looks like
that was my company's. I've been out on that range a lot, and I know exactly what it is. So yeah, that's what we did.
Oh, that's cool. And so what got you to think about politics? What was it that attracted you?
So the mayor of Provo City was really hard on my business and was not helpful at all, and really tried to actually run us out of business. And so when we sold the business, I said, I'm going to run for mayor. And I think we can do better than this. So I ran as for mayor and won, and had a really good experience. And I think that having been a business owner was so instrumental in understanding how to be a good mayor, and realizing, look, that tax base comes from these businesses. We need them to be successful. And so I did that for 8 years and loved every minute of it.
So did you grow up here in Utah?
Grew up in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And my wife and I met at Skyline High School's junior prom.
Skyline. Back to the junior prom.
Yes, that was our first date. And we were married 41 years ago.
Wow. That's cool. And your family?
Yeah, so not a lot different than you. We have 6 kids.
Okay.
You've got...
We have 8.
You have 8.
Yeah.
So, sorry, we just have 6, and we're expecting our 17th grandchild.
Wow.
So that's obviously...
We have no grandchildren.
Yeah, well, when they come, right, and that's how it's been for us, is all of a sudden the faucet's on, and they're the best. You look forward to a very special experience with grandkids.
That's cool. Yeah, I've been down to your house. A lovely place. And
thank you. We build it for grandkids.
Oh, that's what I thought when I walked in there, and it was nice being down there. So what motivated you to move over to the Senate?
That's a hard question. I think there's several factors, though, that I'll try to explain. One is that there is a lifespan in the House, and at some point you make a decision: am I going to spend 30 years here? Or have I done what I came here to do? And we'll talk a little bit about, I think, one of my main missions in the House. And I think in many ways that was coming to a little bit of a fruition. Let's be honest, too, the Senate is a bigger platform. There's 435 members of the House and 100 senators. And so being able to take what I've been working on, particularly energy and climate policy, to the Senate and use that platform is very important to me. And I've got a team that just knows how to get this job done. And we're excited to have that opportunity in the Senate.
You know, it's always been a thing I've thought about, you know, how do we save the planet without killing it, right? Without killing the economy and everything else. And it seems like people on the left are more dead set on killing our way of life than they are protecting the planet.
So let me just jump right in, because you've given me that, so first of all, let me kind of set the stage. When I went back to Washington, D.C. as a brand new member of Congress, I found this environment where Republicans had this brand of not caring about the earth, and all we could do is tell the Democrats what we didn't like with their ideas. And we never were saying these are our ideas. But it really bothered me that we were branded as not caring. So I started leaning into this. And my aha moment was conservatives have a lot of very, very good ideas that don't make you sacrifice your conservative values, that actually reduce emissions, and in my opinion, reduce more than our Democratic colleagues' proposals. And they don't destroy the economy. They don't make prices go up. They don't make fuel unreliable like we've seen in Europe. And we're not talking about it. And so this has kind of been my mission, is to say, let's lean into this and let's show the world we do care as Republicans and conservatives. We care deeply, and we have some very good ideas.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing that's bothered me a lot. You know, it seems like I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want to protect the planet.
Exactly, right.
But it seems like what's going on right now is that we got a war on fossil fuel. We've got a war on the economy, right? And that to me doesn't really balance with this idea that we want to preserve the planet and do the right thing as stewards.
So, John, I think what happens is we let this science question get in the way. So Republicans hear this question, is the climate changing, and has man influenced it? And what we really hear is, why won't you accept our crazy ideas? And so we push back on it.
Right.
And the reality of it is, Republicans, just like Democrats, care deeply about leaving this earth better than we found it. And we've got to do a better job of articulating our solutions, because the solutions currently on the table, all you have to do is look at Europe. Europe right now is buying very, very dirty fuel from an enemy at very high prices. So a small little room, not much smaller than this room that we're in right now, would cost $1,000 to heat for the winter. Well, that's unsustainable. And the power won't stay on. And they're buying their fuel from an enemy. And the United States is headed down that same trajectory. So it's no wonder that we push back on that. And what we need to do is step up and say, look, no, we care. Here are our ideas. They don't destroy the economy. They keep prices reliable and affordable, and they're clean as well.
Yeah. I mean, conservative conservative actually has the same roots, and so I don't understand that.
Yeah, so this is what's funny is Republicans are the original environmentalists. We hate to be called environmentalists because that name's now associated with so many things, but we were the ones that did EPA, clean air, clean water, and we need to own that, and we need to lean into this.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break,
okay,
and we'll come right back.
John Curtis has done more for Utah than anyone.
Hold it. That sounds too much like a typical politician. Start over.
John Curtis delivers for Utah.
That's better.
As mayor of Provo, Curtis cut the budget, improved services, and Provo became one of the best-run cities in America. In Congress, he's gotten things done for Utah, helping our small businesses create jobs, taking on the federal government, fighting for broadband access in our rural communities, and protecting our farmers and ranchers from government's overreach and costly regulations. Curtis is ranked one of the most effective Republicans in Congress. He stood up to President Biden and voted repeatedly against his reckless spending.
My family says I'm cheap. I think I'm thrifty. Right, Sue?
John's definitely a penny pincher.
Curtis has voted no time and time again to stop D.C.'s wasteful spending.
I like saying no to big spenders in both parties.
Curtis even sleeps in his office to save money.
You should see the shower I hooked up to my sink.
John, you're oversharing again.
I know.
Anything else to share, John?
Actually, there is. As a father and a grandfather, I care deeply about Utah's future. That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for the U.S. Senate. We need to get America back on track. I'll keep fighting Joe Biden's reckless spending. I'll work to make America not just energy independent, but energy dominant. That's good for our economy, our security, and our pocketbooks. I've been to the southern border, and I've seen what a disaster Biden's policy is. We must provide more resources to secure the border to stop illegal immigration. I've always stood up to communist China's aggression. I will never back down to them. That's why they'll arrest me if I ever visit. And I'll continue to push back against DC's takeover of what should be Utah's land. As your senator, I'll work hard every day to make Utah an even better place. I'm John Curtis, and I look forward to earning your vote.
John Curtis for U.S. Senate.
Welcome back. We're here with John Curtis, candidate for Senate. Congressman Curtis.
Yes, Mr. Senator, yes.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It's actually really nice to have you. So we were talking about the climate policy, and I'd ask you in the thing about I saw a meme going around the internet that shows that we've reduced our carbon emissions by like 4%, whereas China was off the chart in terms of their emissions going up every year.
Yeah, first of all, it's amazing that you even found that, because we're hiding the fact that the United States has reduced more greenhouse gas emissions than the next 10 greenhouse gas emitting countries combined. Why don't we talk about that? Because that would take the pressure off trying to reduce emissions. But the reality of it is we're very good at it. Now, here's what's really staggering. The way we did that with a fossil fuel. Our natural gas that we produce here in the United States is roughly 40%, is produced 40% cleaner than Russia. So think about this for a minute. If we wanted to reduce emissions around the world, which is what we need to do, we would simply replace Russian natural gas with U.S. natural gas, and we would reduce more greenhouse gas emissions than the entire Green New Deal. And imagine what that would do for our economy. If we were providing the energy to the world, what that would do for our economy and for national security. Now, all of a sudden, other countries are dependent on us for fuel instead of them, and we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And this is what Republicans need to hear more about is, wow, there is a path out there. It's really good for our economy. It's good for national security, and it reduces emissions.
So we can still say drill, baby, drill, and
yeah, so I'm a little careful. Yeah, I'm a little careful with that because that goes back to this, like, you guys don't care.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that the more we do here in the United States, we do it cleaner. And this is what's really frustrating to people in the oil and gas industry is we're shutting down U.S. oil and gas, and then we're going to Venezuela and to Russia and saying, please produce more. And theirs is dirtier. And so we're building up their economies, creating more emissions. You can see the hypocrisy in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the solutions? I mean, there's one there, right?
Let me start with fossil fuels, because fossil fuels have been painted as the enemy of climate. The reality of it is they're part of the solution, and we need to go to our fossil fuel industry. I represent the basin in Carbon County. We need to embrace them and say, we want you to actually be part of our solution in solving this. I've actually seen natural gas plants that burn with zero emissions. I've been told that you can burn coal with zero emissions. And so part of it, too, is U.S. innovation with carbon sequestration and direct air capture to be able to capture these. But another one that's really popular among Republicans is nuclear. Nuclear has zero emissions. Currently, we produce 20% of our energy from nuclear here in the United States. We're on a trajectory to cut that in half by 2030. We're going the exact wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of research a year ago. I got really interested in these salt reactors, these molten salt reactors, and there were some early thorium reactors, but it was really fascinating to learn where we had gone with that and why we stopped doing it.
So Pacificor is actually starting one prototype, and it will be a nuclear reactor, and they're actually using molten salt to store energy. So nuclear is a great base load, right? But if you don't need it for a moment, it's hard to store that energy. So by using molten salt, they're actually storing that energy. And that's a really good example of U.S. innovation and technology that we want to be exporting around the world. We want the world to be buying U.S. technology for energy.
Yeah, that's it would be a lot better if we told the energy companies, look, this is what our goals are in terms of carbon emissions, right? We're not going to shut down your plant. You decide when that happens, right? But you just move towards those goals. Every time we change an administration, it seems like we just upset their long-term planning.
I love that, because this is what I would do. If I could be king for a day, I would say, look, in the year 2050, 3 things are going to be important about our fuel source: reliability, affordability, and cleanliness. Now you go, right? And whoever gets there with your technology, you're the winner, right? I think fossil fuels will be there. I think nuclear will be there. I think renewables will be there. And you and I talked about this a little bit before we started the show. Republicans don't hate renewables. We just know they can't replace baseload without better storage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big thing, right? I mean, that's, one of the discussions I've been having. We have a climate caucus too, and one of the discussions we've been having, I mean, we're really merging to go over into energy, right? Is that, we don't want to shut down any coal plant in Utah until it's replaced by some other base power source.
People are really worried in the United States that we're replacing baseload power, particularly coal, but also nuclear, with renewables at a rate that's not sustainable. And I'll tell you a really interesting story. I was over in Scotland, and the president of Scottish Power sat at my table, and he looked at me, he knew what I did, and he said, "We're 100% renewable." I said, "Wow, that's amazing. How did you do that?" And he said, "Wind. We have so much wind we don't know what to do with." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, what do you do when the wind doesn't blow?" And he said, "Oh, that's easy. We import natural gas from Russia." Totally missing the point.
Yeah.
He has to have base load. And the very next day, I was in a room in Scotland where they had a third-party contractor who had contracts with households, they don't have a lot of industry there, to throttle their power back when the wind wasn't blowing. And I said to them, "Talk to me about base load." And he looked at me and he said, like I had sworn, he said, "We haven't used that word in this room for 5 years." And they don't care about base load.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just like, I mean, you have to meet so much. It's nice that the sun shines in the day and that we can get solar power, but that needs to be supplemental, right? That can't cover the whole base load.
Well, let me tell you one more story. So I was down in Kenya, and Meg Whitman is the ambassador, and she was bragging that Kenya was 90% renewable, and she was trying to make the case that businesses should come to Kenya because if you want renewable power, we have it here. 10 minutes into her speech, the lights went out. And then the diesel generators kicked in and the lights came back on, which also shows that it's got to be reliable. This is one of the problems with renewables right now. We don't have adequate storage. I think someday we will. I don't have anything against renewables, but we've got to improve storage capacity if renewables are going to be a big part of it.
So let's talk about a few other issues I think that are important to the voters in Utah. One of them is inflation.
Huge.
I think the young people are really being shifted because of that one issue. What do we do?
It's a big deal. And when I was in college a billion years ago, they taught me that inflation is the result of too much spending with too few goods, too much money chasing too few goods. So what have we done as a federal government? We've turned on an unrestrained pipeline of spending money, trillions and trillions of dollars of spending. And at the same time, we've increased regulations. So what I need to do in my role in Congress and in the Senate, if I'm successful getting there, we've got to rein in the spending. And we've got to loosen up regulations, and not in a way that's harmful. We just have duplicative regulations. A lot of them can be done away and free up the supply chain, and we get that inflation to go back down and be reasonable. You and I remember the 70s, 80s when we were buying homes and paying 12% for a mortgage.
Yeah.
It's unsustainable.
Right. Yeah, young people are really having a problem with that,
Yeah.
with housing and stuff. Well, we're out of time.
Dang it.
But why don't you make why don't you make your pitch, right? Just tell people why John Curtis.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm really honored to be running for the Senate here. And what I would say is, look, I'm running because of my track record in the House, and I hope people will take a look at that. We're very, very effective in passing legislation. We've passed 19 bills into law, and everybody knows that's in a very dysfunctional environment. We know how, and those laws, by the way, have to do with Utah lives, things like small business, opioids, public lands, things that are very important. My office was rated #1 for constituent outreach and accountability, 2 things that people are demanding and expecting of their representative. And I'm really looking forward to the campaign trail to make my case to the rest of the state that doesn't yet know me, and hope I have an opportunity to serve as your senator.
Excellent. Thank you, John, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, John.